Chapter 20. Where's Maybeck? Finn asked. The two girls didn't answer right away. They seemed shocked to see him and Philby so wet and so pale. We don't know, Charlene sounded frightened. The sun, Philby said. Did you try the glasses? Y, I, and R. 3 letters. They looked painted and added on later. Willa replied excitedly. Same with us, Philby said. F, M, and E. We are definitely on to something. Finn interrupted their glee. Where's Maybeck? Charlene looked worried. We got to the ride and he said he had something he had to check out. We told him we had to stick together, but he blew us off. And he hasn't come back? Willa said angrily. Hasn't come back, Philby asked, finally realizing they had a serious problem on their hands. And this was like half an hour ago, Charlene said. He kept checking his watch, Willa complained. He was nervous about something, like he was eager to get back. Oh no, Finn heard himself moan. The button. He and Philby said at once. If Maybeck had taken the button from the apartment with him to the other side, he could leave them all stranded inside the Magic Kingdom until he returned. No one knew if the button would cross over or stay behind. But they didn't want to wait to find out. The 4 took off at a run. They approached the castle with caution. It seemed a likely location for security guards. At night, light streamed up onto its stone exterior, the towering spires pointing like fingers into the dark sky. Crouched behind some thick bushes, just off the ramp that led up to the castle, the kids waited, listening intensely and looking in all directions. Charlene nudged Philby, who nudged Finn. A pair of pirates, figures from Pirates of the Caribbean, not humans, looked in shadow, just inside the castle's first arc, waiting. Their mechanical eyes never blinked. Finn whispered, I know those two. They were part of the group that attacked me. You're right, said Philby. I was there too, remember. You think they are waiting for us? Charlene asked. No. How could they possibly know? Finn cut himself off. Maybeck, Rita said. You don't think... Maybeck is not an overtaker, Philby declared. He could be a spy, Charlene proposed. No way, Finn said sharply. If they're waiting for us, it means Maybeck's in trouble. He's been caught, Willa said. A chill passed through Finn. He waited a moment to see if it lingered, in case it meant that the witch was nearby. The feeling passed. Phoebe said, Didn't Rain say something about secret ways into the castle? Finn finished for him. Yes, he did. And he also said if you took a wrong step in Ister's Keep, you ended up in the moat. But he never showed us any secret doors. I know where one is, Philby announced. What? Finn said, astonished. FMK, Philby explained. I was in this room, and I heard these two guys talking about counting stones, castle stones. I'm positive that was it. I had no idea what they meant, but it could be a secret door away inside. How many stones, and from where? Will asked. We've got to hurry. Maybeck may need us. I don't remember, but the point is, There must be a stone you push to get inside. But that's in a computer game, Charlie protested, sweeping one arm across the scene. This is real life. They all looked at her glowing, transparent arm. Or sort of, she added. The game is part of real life, Philby said. Follow me, Finn said. Together the 40 eyes crept on their stomachs up to the wall of the castle, where they were now out of sight from the waiting pirates. Spread out, Finn said. Push every stone you can reach. They formed a long line, wrapping around the side of the castle, their backs to Tomorrowland, where the manicured lawn spilled down toward the moat. Finn pushed against the cool stone blocks. He steered at knee-height and pushed against every stone he could. Then he moved an arm's length towards Charlene, immediately to his right, and started again. A few minutes into this process, Willa called out, "Got it!" Finn and the others hurried over. A door had opened in the wall of the castle. It was pitch black inside. Phoebe said, "Always trust computer games." With no one stepping up, Finn took the lead. The chilly corridor smelled damp and old. Phoebe entered last. He said, "Wait up. We've got to shut this thing." Willa turned to help him. She found an iron handle sticking out of the wall. She pushed and couldn't move it, then leaned her right onto it, and it rotated toward the floor. The stone door made a sound like fingernails on a blackboard as it closed. Finn was still very wet from his ordeal at Splash Mountain. His soaked clothes made him very cold now. He felt his way along the cool rock, tripped when he reached some stairs, and warned the others in a dry whisper to look out. Together they climbed the stairs, at the top of which Finn encountered a dead end. It was a stone wall that didn't budge when he leaned against it. Charlene found an iron handle, just like the one Willa had found at the other end. The two girls leaned against it, and the wall in front of Finn moved open, a crack. He and Philby pushed it farther open. "The throne," Finn said, recognizing where this door led. They stepped into the throne room, in the waiting area for Cinderella's royal table. There was tapestries and flags on the walls. The throne was attached to the hidden door, so that when the door had opened, the throne had moved it with it. As a team, they pushed the door back, but not before Philby had taken a moment to find the hidden switch, a wooden knob, tucked away on the back of the throne itself. When this knob was moved, the door tripped open. They tried it once the door was back in place, and sure enough, it came open for them, offering them a way out if needed. Minutes later, the three others followed Finn up Etcher's Keep. He had carefully memorized the way, but took his time, knowing one false step could... "Thaw they be," came a gruff voice from behind and down below. Finn and the others turned to see the same two audio-animatronic pirates standing at the base of Esther's Keep. They appeared to be overwhelmed by the complications of the stairways, ladders, and platforms, all of which were interconnected in improbable ways. One pirate was dressed in a blue coat, the other red. The one in red pulled out his knife and pointed up the stairs. "Hurry!" Charlene cried out. The sound of clunky mechanical legs echoed up the first stairway. "We can't hurry," Finn replied. We make a mistake and we end up in the moat. And that word means security guards. The pirates continued to climb. Phoebe said, "Besides, they won't figure it out." But to his amazement, the two pirates made a lucky guess at the first platform and found the correct stairway. At the top, the red pirate turned left, but the blue one grabbed him by the shoulder and stopped him. They were frighteningly close to the kids now, only one stairway behind. Finn remembered how to get onto the upside-down mirror stairs. He stepped on the correct tiles and then tested the stairway with his right foot. It was solid. He climbed and the others followed. As they came out the end of a short tunnel, their images appeared upside down to the pirates below. "Avast!" the red pirate called out sharply. He and the blue pirate hurried up the set of stairs in front of them. Charlene charged past Finn, clearly afraid, but Phoebe, Willa, and Finn watched from their inverted positions. As the two pirates reached the next landing and tried to decide on a course, they argued between themselves. You wouldn't know east if the sun was rising. No, when was the last time you knew from aft?" They stepped up onto a set of stairs, seemingly proud of their choice, and promptly vanished from sight. Amid a war of rough-sounding words, a moment later, two splashes. Finn said, "And that would be the moat." A few minutes later, the five kids rode the night sky elevator to the apartment together. To their confusion, they found the remote button on the coffee table, exactly where Finn had left it. "Either he came here and sent himself back," Phoebe said, "leaving us the remote, or he never left here in the first place," Finn completed it. "That might explain the pirates," Willa said, still wondering if Maybeck was somehow a spy. "Or it might tell us he's been caught," Phoebe suggested. "What about the teepee?" Charlene asked. "Didn't we say if we didn't meet here, we'd meet there?" "Yes, we did. You're right," Finn said. "I don't love the idea of going back the way we came," Phoebe said. Those clowns could return." Phoebe moved over to the silver Mickey plate on the wall by the window. "Wayne used the express lane," he reminded. "I'm not going first on that thing," Charlene declared. Finn said, "Then I will." He hit the plate. The floor fell out from under him, and he slid in his damp clothes down an interesting steep exit tube. It was the best tube he'd ever ridden, including every water park he'd ever been to. It levered off near the bottom, slowing him down, and he popped through a pair of doors and landed on a patch of grass in a shadowy nook outside the castle walls. He rolled out of the way and waited. A moment later, Willa came through, then Charlene, and finally Philby. Together they made their way toward Frontierland and the teepee, staying in shadow and hiding often. They called for Maybeck inside the teepee. No answer. Then at Philby's urging, they climbed inside to get out of sight. Finn said, "We have to find him before we go back." "But it's late," Charlene protested. "We have to get back. Listen, he's the one who took off. He broke the rules. Why should we be the ones punished?" Finn asked. "And if it was you left behind?" "Shh," Philby said. The pug suddenly seemed unusually quiet, and it felt to Finn as if there were 1,000 ears trained in their direction. A whistle came from the bushes just on the other side of the teepee wall. They heard footsteps, someone circling the teepee. "I know you're in there," said Maleficent in a dry, raspy voice. But Finn heard her in his head, not through his ears. "Missing something, are we?" She clucked her tongue. "What a shame you didn't listen and obey. I told you to stay away from here. Nasty children, nasty little children." The footfalls continued around the teepee and reached the front door. The teepee's interior grew steadily colder until the kids could see 4 plumes of their fogged breath emerging clearly from their invisible bodies. Across from him, Finn heard a brief but sharp clatter of teeth. Charlene's, no doubt. The 4 plumes of fog stopped as all 4 held their breath. A gangly shadow stretched across the open doorway. Maleficent's voice sounded like slowly cracking glass. "You should have stayed away while you had the chance." The shadow bent. An oddly beautiful green face appeared in the open doorway. Charlene screamed, jumped up, and fled the teepee. Suddenly visible, she surprised the witch, who reeled back instinctively. Maleficent lunged at Charlene, with her skinny arms and bony fingers. But Charlene was much too fast for her. Maleficent got only a piece of the girl's black t-shirt. The shirt stretched, and Charlene was nearly pulled off her feet. But the shirt tore at the last second, leaving a scrap of cloth in Maleficent's green hand. Willa fled right behind Charlene. The witch missed her entirely. Finn saw that Maleficent's eyes were eerily bright. She had surprisingly pretty high cheekbones, with a high forehead, black hair, and a strong chin. She wore a strange headdress, like 2 twisting horns that rose from the hood of her cape. Her inquisitive face explored the empty teepee. "Why can't I see you, you poor simple fools? Have you got magic of your own, do you?" Never taking her eyes off the inside of the teepee, she crouched. Her twisty green fingers with red nails couldn't keep still. She scooped up a fuss of sandy dirt from just outside the doorway. Finn kept in shadow, remaining invisible. He moved carefully and quietly towards the door. "Now, Finn Whitman, you shall deal with me," the witch said, casting an arc of sand inside. Briefly, a ghostly image of Philby's left side appeared, as the sand struck and stuck to him. A clever witch at that, Finn thought. Philby brushed off most of the sand, but not all. His ghostly image remained. Maleficent stepped over the lip and into the teepee, heading right for Philby. Finn jumped forward and shoved her to the dirt. It felt like he had rammed into a wall of ice. "Run!" Finn shouted. Philby jumped over the witch's legs and sprang out of the teepee. He landed in the dirt, whirled, and came to his feet. Finn also tripped over the lower lip of the teepee's door. He too went down face first into the dirt. As Finn came to his feet, a crow flew from the teepee. The bird dove for Finn, its talons like dinner forks. Finn blocked the attack with his forearm and was off at a run. The crow shrieked, rose high, circled once, and dove again, a flutter of feathers. Finn ran hard and fast, thinking, "She will not scare me. She will not scare me." The bird dove again, this time striking the back of Finn's head, its talons scratching his scalp. Finn headed for the shore. He hit the water in a racer's dive, knowing the crow couldn't follow. But the crow tucked its wings, lowered its head, and dove for the water's black surface. Finn heard a big splash and then silence behind him. Charlene, Philby, and Willa, already in the water, swam to shore and clambered up onto the bank and quickly out of sight. Finn realized the bird, the witch, had gone into the water, but had never come out. At that very moment, he felt something wrap around his ankle. Slimy and cold, it dragged him under. A giant black eel. It climbed up Finn's body, wrapped around his middle, and squeezed and squeezed. Finn tore at it with its hands, but it was like trying to grab a giant slithering bar of soap. The more he fought against it, the more it squeezed. He felt the wind being choked out of him. He couldn't breathe. He was losing consciousness. Finn heard a loud whine, like an engine. The eel's grip slackened, just enough to allow Finn to take a breath. Above him, Finn saw Philby in one of the jungle boats. Philby held the boat's outboard motor tilted just above the water, its spinning propeller aimed at the eel. As the propeller was just about to cut the eel, like a meat grinder, the beast released its hold of Finn and slithered back down under the dark water. Finn pulled himself from the water as Philby ran the boat up on shore. "We gotta go right now," Philby shouted to the girls. "We've got to get back to the apartment and get out of here." "Maybeck," Finn said. "We can't wait," Philby shouted. "That's what I've been telling you," Charlene said. "I hate leaving him behind," Willa said, worried. "We all do," Philby said. "But they know we're here. We've got to leave." Finn hardly heard any of this. He was not thinking of the water, nor the crow, nor the eel. He was instead thinking only this one thing over and over. "She knew my name. She knew my name." Chapter 21. Amanda stayed in the lead on her bike. Thankfully, she hadn't asked any questions, and he took this as a sign that they were becoming really good friends. He told her only that he had to see Jelly, and that she was welcome to come along if she wanted. They locked their bikes beneath a sign that read, "Crazy Grays." "You're awfully quiet today," she said. "Yeah," was all Finn could think to say. "You want me to keep her busy while you check around back. Is that about it?" He nodded. Amanda entered the store, glancing back at Finn with a worried expression. Finn found 2 fire escapes out back, made of slatted iron, surfacing several doors. Finn heard Jelly's distinctive voice through an opened window. This was followed by Amanda asking after Terry. "Terry's not feeling well," Jelly said. "I brought him some homework," Amanda said. It was a right lie, because in fact she and Finn went to a different school than Maybeck. but she needed a reason to see him. "That's sweet of you, girl. I'll be sure to pass it along." Amanda said, "Is it the flu?" "Not exactly the flu," Jelly answered. "You want to leave him homework, that'd be fine. But right now, I've got a lot to do." "Can I help you?" Amanda offered. "Can I fill in for Terry? If he's not feeling well." "Well, Terry's asleep upstairs." "That would be very good of you, Amanda. Thank you for offering. I'm happy to pay you, though I can't pay much." Finn climbed up the fire escape. The rail was hot to the touch. If caught, Finn wasn't sure what excuse he'd use, but he'd think of something. At the first landing, there was a normal-looking door. Finn knocked gently. Nothing. Then he tried the doorknob. It turned, but he didn't dare open it. That was just plain wrong, and he couldn't bring himself to do it. Then the hours hit him. That other landing below, the adjacent windows. If he could make the jump. Finn climbed over the rail of the landing, hung on, and jumped. His fingers hooked around the railing. He hung on for dear life, pulled himself over, and collapsed below the first window. He got to his feet and peered in. He saw a television room with some very nice pottery scattered around. The next window, considerably smaller, was covered on the inside by a thick curtain. A bathroom, perhaps. Finn moved to the third window and peered inside. Maybeck. He was asleep in bed, with the shade up and the lights on, Finn noted, rolled over with his back to Finn. He had on the same shirt he'd been wearing the night before. Next to the bed on a side table, Finn noticed a thermometer bulb down in the glass of water, a face cloth folded into a strip 3 inches wide, and a copy of the Bible. Finn knocked gently on the glass. Maybeck didn't stir. Finn tried again, a little louder. Maybeck didn't budge. If Finn knocked any harder, he thought, he'd break the glass. Instead, he tested the window. It opened. It opened a crack. Again, he faced going inside uninvited. Again, he couldn't bring himself to do it. But he did slide the window up and stick his head through. "Maybeck," he whispered harshly. "Maybeck, wake up." "Finn?" It was Amanda's voice, behind and below him. Finn bumped his head on the window frame as he turned to look for her. "Jelly's coming up there," Amanda warned, frantically. "She heard you." Finn ducked out the bedroom window. He could hear Jelly coming up the stairs. The first steps were close now. Finn slid Maybeck's window shut, ducked, and hurried to the railing. He climbed over, paused, and jumped. For a fraction of a second, it seemed that he'd misjudged the distance that he would fall, crashing in a pile of broken bones right in front of Amanda. But he made it. He climbed over the railing and hurried down to ground level. "Finn? Finn Whitman?" Jelly hollered from the upstairs balcony. "What are you doing here?" "Hello, Jelly," Finn called back. "You sneaking around back here?" "No, ma'am. 'Cause that's what it looks like." "I need to talk to Terry," Finn confessed. "It's important." "You can't. Terry's sick. Not well. Sick or asleep. He won't wake up, will he?" Amanda snapped her head in Finn's direction. Jelly said, "You stay right where you are, young man." Jelly took her time. "Listen," she said, emerging through the back door. This is not something I want. Going around school, you understand? She met eyes with them both. Terry's got some kind of sleeping sickness. Finn gasped. We can't wake him up. He's not got a fever. Not been bitten by anything. No sweats or shakes. She took a long look up at Maybeck's bedroom window. Doctor says to let him be one more night. Tomorrow he goes to the hospital, and they start doing tests. But I'm saying my prayers. Nothing seems wrong with him. Doctor says he's fine in all the important ways. He's stuck asleep, Amanda said. That's a funny way to put it, Jelly said, but yes. Finn wanted to kick Amanda, but she didn't know what she'd said. He had told her nothing about the night before. Maybeck was still crossed over. Finn struggled to figure out what that meant. Can't wake him up? Finn blurted out. That's right, Jelly said. Finn considered carefully before he spoke. Listen, I don't expect you to believe me or anything, but Terry's condition, it has to do with his being a DHI, a Disney host like I am. She studied him thoughtfully, but did not interrupt. I think I can help him. Maybe help him wake up. And this is some kind of joke, because it's in poor taste, young man. Terry's extremely ill. Finn, Amanda said, what's going on? Before he went to bed last night, maybe even yesterday afternoon, did Terry get a phone call? Jelly took another step away from him. What's with you, boy? She was not pleased. She looked on the verge of tears. He did, didn't he? And I bet he came away from that call excited, didn't he? Because it was from a girl, wasn't it? Her, Jelly said, pointing at Amanda, not realizing she'd just confirmed that Finn was right. No, Finn said softly, not her. Thoughts crowded his head. Please don't take him to the hospital until you hear from me tomorrow. I'm supposed to trust my Terry to a 13-year-old boy? Jelly said incredulously. 14, Finn said. I'm 14 next month. Chapter 22. Back riding their bikes, Finn and Amanda pedaled side by side on the sidewalk, slipping into a single file whenever they passed a pedestrian. The afternoon slid toward evening, the sun dragging lower in the sky, the first haze of twilight upon them. Finn felt his whole world dimming. He's not asleep, is he, Finn? She asked. I don't think so. Then what? Trapped over there, Finn said. What's that mean? It means we left him, and we shouldn't have. And now he's stuck back there. On this side he's asleep. Over there he's still a DHI. Who knows what's happened to him? You think he's been caught or something? I hope not, Finn answered. But this is nothing but bad. Real bad. Finn felt a cool wind on his back. He craned over his shoulder to look. Though Finn said nothing, Amanda riding alongside him said, I feel it too. Check out your handlebars. Finn touched his handlebars. Ice cold. His fingers left small patches of vapor behind as he removed them. Just like the car wash, she said. Finn didn't need to be told what that sudden chill meant. He scoured the immediate area for any sign of Maleficent. He saw only cars, storefronts, and power lines. Black cars, red cars, blue cars, and white. Small cars, big cars, dull cars, and bright. Where did they come from? Where were they going? Some cars were driving, some cars were towing. Do you ever think in rhymes? He asked her, wondering where that had come from. She glanced over at him, gravely concerned. What? He asked. You're thinking in rhymes. So what? She answered. It's one of the signs. It's something. She caught herself. Her voice trailed off. What signs? She allowed her bike to fall behind him so far that he couldn't see her. So Finn slowed as well, as they dueled this way. Amanda slowing, then Finn slowing, to join her, until they had come to a stop. What do you know about this? He asked, feeling agitated and impatient. It's a sign of what? To their right was a community center, and adjoining it an enormous skateboard park with a half pipe, a full pipe, jumps, and 4 tubs. A landscape of smooth concrete basins like empty swimming pools, interconnected by ramps and tunnels, where a dozen kids were practicing stunts. Amanda said meekly, rhyming is one of the signs of riches. With that, she rose up onto her pedals and zoomed off, turning into the skateboard park. The park was full of skaters, full of concrete alligators, kids in hordes riding boards. Sun was sinking, growing later. Finn shook his head violently, side to side, trying to clear his thoughts and push away the rhymes. What had she just said? He couldn't remember. All he could hear were rhymes. One thought found its way through. Amanda knows something she isn't telling me. Finn raced to catch her. This is weird, like a man with a beard. Green skin and pig eyes. Frog legs and fireflies. A dark cave with loud cries. A girl with tears in her eyes. Finn caught up to her. Amanda's eyes were red. She'd either been crying or affected by the speed of her riding. Amanda, I can't tell you, she said. A motorized minibike zoomed noisily around the corner and dropped into the skate park. The rider was thin and wore a black leather top and pants and a black helmet with a silver mirrored visor that hid his face. The minibike came straight at them, showing no signs of slowing. On the contrary, it was on a collision course. Amanda rose up onto her pedals and dropped her bike into the first big concrete bathtub. Finn followed. They climbed the opposing wall and flew up, airborne. The minibike followed. Finn rose from his seat, balanced the bike in the air, tipped forward, and dove into the next big concrete basin. Amanda dropped into the half-pipe to the left. Separate like this, the minibike driver had to choose. It came at Finn. The other boarders and bikers stopped what they were doing and watched the contest. Amanda flew down the steep wall of the half-pipe, picking up speed and launching into a high jump. Finn, parallel with her, now yanked his front wheel in midair and changed direction upon landing. He joined her, following inside the full pipe. As the minibike entered the full pipe, Finn found the screeching whine of its motor deafening. Out the end of the pipe, riding together now, Finn and Amanda raced to the bottom of the third tub. Pushed down onto their seats by centrifugal force. As they raced up the opposing side, they lifted, tipped their weight in unison, and reversed their bikes. Aimed back down into the deep basin, the minibikes riding toward them. Amanda bravely reached over with her left arm and grabbed Finn by the forearm. Finn returned the grip. "You ready for this?" she asked. "On 3, Finn said. They released their brakes on the count of 3. Zooming toward the oncoming minibike, the arms extended and ready to clothesline the rider. The bikes flew down. The minibike wound its way toward them. Amanda and Finn screamed in unison. At the last possible second, the rider dumped the minibike in a flurry of sparks, slipping under their collapsed arms and between the two bikes. The few onlookers let out a wild cheer. Amanda and Finn stopped at the top of the basin and looked back. The driver lying next to the minibike appeared okay. He, she, it stood up, brushed off and gestured toward the two. Finn felt a pulse of cold fill him, a familiar cold. Amanda shouted something that sounded like a foreign language. She crossed her arms and then threw them forward toward the rider, and the cold stopped abruptly. The leather-clad rider was lifted from the ground and thrown to the concrete. "Ride," Amanda hollered at Finn. "Ride and don't look back." Finn pedaled off, wondering if he'd just seen Amanda do that. "Who are you?" he shouted, as their bikes reached the street. "We've got to split up," she said. With that, she pedaled furiously away from him. Chapter 23. At dinner that night, Finn brooded at the table, unable to take his mind off recent events. Maybeck's sleeping sickness, Amanda's mysteries, the letters they'd found secretly hidden at both its small world and Splash Mountain. Watching him, his mother wore a look of curiosity, while his father, in typical fashion, ate quietly. Finn stabbed at his food and moved it around on his plate, hoping it might appear eaten. "How was school today?" his mother asked. Every night the same question. Next would come, "Did you do anything fun today? What are your friends up to?" "Did you do anything fun today?" she asked brightly. She couldn't stand it when Finn was quiet like this. "I don't know," Finn answered honestly. "It's all right, I suppose." "You can do better than that," his father said. His father always thought Finn could do better at everything. He seemed always to be riding Finn about his grades or his performance on the soccer field. He talked about college scholarship, like they were some kind of religion. "I'm good," Finn said, pushing back his plate. "Might I be excused?" Another part of the secret code. He had no chance of leaving the table without these passwords. "No snacks later, sweetheart. This is dinner." "I know," Finn said. He stood up from the table and grabbed his plate. Suddenly his head went all rubbery, as if all his blood was draining from him all at once. He thought he might pass out. Finn, his mother's voice, but in the next county. Then there was her painted mouth moving above him, her voice sounding detached, and several octaves lower than normal, like a tape playing at half speed. She'd rushed to his side. The lights in the room dimmed, a power failure. He saw his father chewed food in his open mouth, looking scared. "Finn, dear," his mother said. "I'm fine," he replied. His mother hovered over him. He felt his parents taking him under his arms and leading him upstairs. Finn's feet feet flapped and dragged. He felt useless. They led him toward his bed. No, I don't want to go to sleep. But his eyes felt so heavy. He closed his eyes and it happened again. Chapter 24. Finn awoke on the same park bench where he'd first met Rain, at the end of Main Street, across from the fire station. It was night time, though the park remained open. He looked down to see his arms and legs faintly glowing. He was his DHI self. Some kids saw him, and he knew he was in for trouble if he didn't get out of there. A flash of light to his right. Finn strained to see through the thick crowds. Already so many people, and yes, there it was again, another flash of light. For an instant, the crowd parted and he saw Philby raving. Finn dragged himself heavily across the street. Still feeling sluggish, leaving the curious kids behind, and caught up with Philby. I thought that was you, Philby said, pocketing a flashlight. You don't look so hot, Finn said. Have you tried a mirror? Another brownout? Finn asked. I assume so. We're early, Finn said. Yeah, but if you're here, chances are the girls are too. We should check the apartment and the TP. But let's do it together, Finn suggested. Maybeck, Phoebe asked. I went to his house, Finn answered. He's asleep, in bed, and they can't wake him up. Tomorrow morning, they are going to take him to the hospital and start running tests. We've got to find him before that. Who knows what they'd do to him? Maybeck was caught, Philby said, and it wasn't security. It was the Overtakers. It has to be. Wayne said, Maybeck's our computer guy. We know he's been poking around. The Overtakers don't want him messing with the DHI server. The brownouts are feeling lousy like this. That's the server doing that. The Overtakers are trying to kill us, Finn said. Slow us down, scare us away. He didn't sound convinced. Then I said it's working, Finn said. So where do we start? The apartment or the TP? Finn looked past Philby at the glowing windows above the fire station. Neither, Finn said. Follow me. Finn climbed the stairs on the side of the firehouse, 2 at a time. I should have thought of this before. He told me he lived here. Who? Finn knocked on the door. Wayne answered. Philby and Finn were welcomed inside. It was a cozy room, all wood and brass. That felt like something from a ship. Wayne wore a heavy wool sweater, khaki pants, and Mickey and Minnie slippers. There were books everywhere, and no television or even a radio. The bed was up in a loft in the very peak of the roof. Wow, Philby said, looking around. There were Disney toys scattered around, antiques that went back decades. A fabric wall hanging showed off over 1,000 Disney pins. I wonder how long it would take you to look me up, Wayne said. It seemed almost as if he'd been expecting them. There were 3 teacups by the stove and 3 chairs set out facing one another. Wayne poured them some tea and gestured for the 2 boys to sit down. Can you help us find Maybeck? Finn asked. Was it Maleficent? Philby asked. Wayne's eyebrows arched. He did not answer Philby directly. What do you know about her? He had owl-like circles beneath his icy blue eyes. He looked ominous and menacing now, instead of like the silly old guy Finn had first thought him to be. He smiled thinly and said, Amazing things happen when we put our minds to it. There is a saying that seeing is believing, but believing is seeing as well, and touching and hearing, connecting. The witch Maleficent has something to do with this, Finn said. He told Rain everything that had happened recently. Apparently she has everything to do with this, Rain agreed. The Overtakers, Finn tested. There are others Overtakers besides Maleficent. Too many to count. Like the pirates. Walker bees is all. The pirates don't matter much. But you must underestimate nothing. No one. Conviction is the better part of intent. Few battles are won by strength alone. Cunning and knowing your resources can help you overpower the most powerful. How do we stop Maleficent? Phoebe asked anxiously. He sipped the tea, liked it, and drank some more. Don't get ahead of yourselves, Rain said. Maybeck, Finn said. They won't want anyone to see him, nor to hear him. Should he call out, Phoebe continued, someplace dark and noisy, Finn said. One of the attractions, Phoebe said. Like Pirates of the Caribbean. The pirates took him. It's not dark enough, Finn said. And where would they hide him? On the boat, maybe, Phoebe said. Possibly, Rain said, though his tone of voice suggests that he didn't give the idea much credence. Well, listen, Obi-Wan, Phoebe said sarcastically. Why don't you tell me and Luke here where to find him, and we'll make for hyperspace. Warmer, Rain said to Phoebe, though he engaged Finn with his eyes. Space Mountain, Finn said. Pitch black and super loud. Phoebe sat forward excitedly. Is he right? Is that where they've got him? Brilliant. Rain sipped his tea, looking over the cup. I have no idea where your friend is being kept. It's a big park. Very big. Finn thought for a moment and then said, more important, it may be like the teepee inside there. A Dishai's shadow. That would make Maybeck invisible, easy to hide, to say the least. If Ray knew any answers, his face revealed nothing. It's a place to start, Finn said. We have to start somewhere, Rain said. They're keeping you from solving the fable. You see that, don't you? Distracting you. And if we solve it, Phoebe asked. When we solve it, Finn said, looking right at Rain. Rescue your friend, solve the fable. Only then will we know what's expected of you. Finn and Phoebe wouldn't be entering Space Mountain through the front door. Rain told them of a trap door that existed in the very top of the pointed dome roof. The roof hatch was used by maintenance and, to his knowledge, had never been locked. If the boys could climb to the first level of the dome, about 15 feet up, they'd reach a metal ladder that ran up the back of the dome to the pinnacle. From there, they could enter the ride's interior. At Rain's suggestion, the boys borrowed some ropes from the firehouse. They then snuck through shadows, carrying the heavy ropes over their shoulders, and reached the back side of the attraction. Crouching in some bushes, looking at the steepness of the roof and the small metal ladder that led to the top, Finn said, the Overtakers have guts to assume we'll come for Maybeck. But to them, we're kids, don't forget. They'll have patrols, cameras maybe. So when we do this, we do it quickly. The roof was shaped something like a magician's hat, with a wide brim and a conical peaked crown. There were antennae on top. Philby proved his climbing skills by tossing one of the ropes over a metal railing on the brim part of the roof. He tied it off. "We are set," he announced, waving Finn over. Finn, who was not big of heights, shinned up the rope. In short order, he reached the brim of the roof. He threw a leg over and pulled himself up. Philby followed silently, and without incident, they kept away from the edge of the roof, where they might be spotted as Philby pulled up the rope and stashed it out of sight. Quickly they ascended the right metal ladder that ran to the peak. Attached to the roof, it ran at the same steep angle as the cone. They reached the top, and sure enough, there was a metal trapdoor exactly as Rain had described it. Finn reached for the handle and pulled. It lifted open, and he peered down into a black square completely void of light. "Who's going first?" Philby asked, his voice breaking. Finn led the way down the metal ladder. Philby followed, and they descended silently. After a moment, Finn's eyesight began to adjust. They were way up inside the pointy hat part of the domed ceiling, a gigantic space that contained the entire Space Mountain roller coaster track. He made out a few red exit signs, but they were not bright enough to see by. The track was a tangle of metal fringed by catwalks, and supported by towering I-beams and steel columns. Finn felt as if he were inside a complicated clock. They reached a catwalk, a path that led along the roller coaster track, with a metal mesh floor, and followed it to a set of metal stairs leading down. This connected to another catwalk. Suddenly it felt as if they'd entered a maze. "This is crazy," Philby whispered. "The place is huge. Maybe I could be anywhere." "I'm not so sure about that," Finn said. "Agreed, it's huge, but look around. Where are you going to hide him?" Now that his eyes had fully adjusted, he could make out the size and scope of the complicated track. But it was all exposed and open. Not a good place to hide someone. "Hey," Finn said, holding out his hand. Seeing his hand. "Yeah," Phoebe said. "I know." But he moved his own arm around to show Finn that his metal broke up the imaging. His arm appeared to be in pieces, separated by black stripes. The DJI projecting in here was spotty at best. "You take that side," he instructed Philby. "We'll meet in the middle over there." He pointed out a low spot in the ride where the track turned sharply left. "If something goes wrong," Philby cautioned, "we get out of here and meet at the apartment." "Got it." Finn descended yet another ladder, and then followed a catwalk toward one of the exit signs, using it as a beacon. The catwalks reminded him of submarine movies. If he were hiding someone, Finn thought, he'd stash his hostage close to where guests made the most noise, in a place where any shouts for help would likely go unheard. Finn searched the track overhead for just a spot. Then he leaned over the rail of the catwalk and looked below. Not far below him, slightly to his left, he noticed an indistinct dark shape that, as he approached, he realized was geometric, a large rectangle. Now he recognized it as a booth or storage room, like the catwalks. Its walls were of heavy wire mesh. Finn climbed over the rail, lowered himself, and dropped to a catwalk below. He reached out and touched the wire mesh. It was covered in a greasy dust that stuck to his fingers. It looked like a large garden shed, about 6 feet tall, 10 feet deep, and 15 feet long. On the front of the shed, a heavy canvas was hung that prevented Finn from seeing inside. The canvas was tied down on the inside. Finn located the only door, which was wood-framed and also covered with wire mesh. He felt his way down the door and struck a piece of heavy metal, a padlock. Locked out. Psst, Finn tried to signal Philby, but got no answer. Finn looked around off into the dark, realizing he'd completely lost track of his friend. He tried again. Psst. A muffled voice made him spin around. It was coming from inside the screen shed. Philby? Finn tried again, a little louder. He heard the scuffle of feet. Nig, woof, said the muffled voice behind him. Maybeck, it's me, Finn. Finn struggled with the lock again, and then remembered he didn't need to unlock the door. Finn closed his eyes and concentrated on his being made of light. Nothing but light. And he walked through the wall, just as he'd swum through the water without feeling the effects of the current. Once through, he realized how much darker it was inside the shed because of the canvas. Finn felt his way around, stepping over boxes and coils and pieces of metal. The muffled calls for help became more urgent. I'm right here, Finn said, turning toward the sound. Closed by now, Finn squatted, felt around, and touched an arm. He jumped back, fell over, and knocked something loose, making a loud sound. Said Maybeck. Wiggling as he was, a piece of Maybeck's each eye. His left side suddenly showed. Finn lunged forward and untied the gag. Oh man, Maybeck said, the gag slipping off. You okay? No, I'm famished, and I'm thirsty, but thank you, man, thank you. Finn untied Maybeck's wrists and ankles. Maybeck said, let's book it. We gotta go find Philby. He's in here someplace, looking for you too. Maybeck pulled on the locked door, but it didn't budge. But how'd you? Right through the wall, Finn explained. That's fine for you, but what about me? I can't go through a dumb wall. Sure you can. No, I can't. You're going to have to. Maybeck stared at the dark canvas and the locked door. Are you telling me I could have just walked out of here all along? Not if you convinced yourself you were trapped, Finn replied. Maybeck reached out. His hand struck the canvas. You've got to lose the attitude, Maybeck, Finn instructed. You're only hitting that wall because you think that's what's supposed to happen. I don't have an attitude. He waited for some support from Finn. Do I? Finn demonstrated. First he reached out and touched the canvas. Then he reached over a second time, and his hand and forearm passed right through up to his elbow. I do not have an attitude, Maybeck repeated. Prove it, Finn said. He was worried about the noise Philby was making, trying to get over to the shed. The bumps and bangs seemed amplified in this echo chamber. On Maybeck's sixth try, he walked through the wall of the closure. Once on the other side, he bent over as if in pain. You okay? Finn asked. Giddy with an accomplishment, Maybeck started giggling. What a dumb jerk. I could have walked out of there all along. Not with your hands tied. That rope is from this side. The rope would have stopped you from getting through the wall. Maybeck blurted out it was Jez. What was Jez? She called, Maybeck said. Called your house? Finn said, having figured out some of this on his own. Last night, just before you crossed over. Said she'd meet me. When you checked your watch, Finn said, speculating. The line you fed us about having a hot date, you really did have a hot date. I ditched the girls at It's a Small World. We were going to meet, Jez and me, at the carousel, but all of a sudden I was so cold. I could barely move. Like slow motion. Yeah, cold, Finn said. He was thinking, been there, done that. Chapter 25. For nearly a week, the kids met inside the park after going to bed, but only for a matter of minutes. As quickly as possible, they would use the button to return home. Having looking for no more clues, they caught up on sleep. They did their homework. They rejoined their families. Maybeck's abduction had worn them out and frightened them up to the point of not wanting to continue. They overcame their reluctance only when Philby showed up at one of their meetings telling of a newspaper story. He read about an electrical company power station that had been attacked and drained of all its power. It's not a coincidence, he told the others. This is spreading beyond the park. On Saturday morning, the girls decided to use their complimentary passes to enter the Magic Kingdom legally. As kids, not DHIs. That felt safer. They wore disguises in order to keep fans from spotting them, and carried 3D glasses to wear on the rides. As they stood outside, waiting to board, the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, a cartoony voice came over the speakers saying, Happy Wednesday. It was this, and other references on the ride, that had led them to pick it as the most wind-oriented ride in the park. Wind was the third clue in the Stonecutter's fable. They sat down in the car and the ride began. Black lights made their teeth glow white, and their skin and clothing almost disappear. Glasses were announced. Donning hers, Charlene followed. You look right, I'll look left. Willa coached. If we see any letters, big letters in an unexpected place, we are supposed to write them down. Charlene said, I've got it. She sounded nervous, and Willa understood her concern. The rides had been anything but friendly since this hunt had begun. As they traveled along, doors swung open to admit their car into each new scene. Reaching the third scene, Charlene realized she heard no one talking. She looked back and saw there was no one in the car behind them. Rising to her knees, she saw no one in the car behind that one either. Yet the line of front had been packed. Willa, over there, Willa said, pointing out a large, colorful tree drawn onto a panel. She lifted and dropped her 3D glasses onto her nose, in order to make sure. But yes, there was a single letter drawn into the leaves of the tree. She called out quickly, It's an S. S? Charlene asked, puzzled. But look behind us. Willa was too excited to look back. There's no one behind us, Charlene announced. No one in the cars behind us. Why not? Willa pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket and scribbled down S. As she did, a drop of water appeared on the paper. then another, and another. Behind us, Charlene cried urgently. Willa looked back. She looked up. More water. The doors to the next scene popped open and shut. They were in the rain scene. Rain drawn in long lines down the walls. Rain falling from the ceiling. Since when is this part of the ride? Willa complained, stuffing the paper in her pocket. At that moment, the car stopped moving. What's happening? Charlene whined. Why are we stopping? The few light raindrops changed into a downpour. At first it seemed funny, but then it wasn't simply rain, it was a torrent. Buckets. Both girls gasped for breath. Through a steady stream of water pouring down onto them. It was hard to breathe without coughing. This isn't right, Rilla cried. Now the water beneath their car began to rise. The car lifted, floating. Charlene lunged forward nervously, nearly capsizing them. She leaned out of the car and pushed against the large doors to the next scene. They're stuck. They won't open. As the water rose at an astonishing rate, the car floated higher and higher. Sparks flew as electrical wires were submerged. Stay in the car, Willa hollered. Light sockets sparked and zapped. We could be electrocuted. The car floated quickly toward the ceiling. Willa understood the worst of it. The higher they rose, the less available the air would be. They would either drown or suffocate. Willa, Charlene moaned. I know. The car rose higher still. Sparks flew again as more lights went under. We're in trouble, Willa said, surprisingly calm. Duh. We need a way out. Just now occurred to you, did it? The rain fell like a waterfall. The car was now less than 3 feet from the ceiling. Another foot or two, and the car would be pinned, and the girls inside it. Why won't the doors to the next scene open? Willa thought. Sit still, she warned Charlene. Studying the large scene doors, Willa stood up in the car. Charlene hollered at her to sit down, as the car threatened to tip over. Willa grabbed the overhead pipes to stabilize the car. She then pulled hand over hand to draw the car closer to the door. But as the water rose with so little room, Willa now forced back down into her seat. No time. Water streamed down her neck and shoulders as she spotted a sawed-off length of pipe jammed across the top of the large doors, blocking them and holding them shut. The rain was nothing more than the emergency sprinkler system, gone wild. All this trouble could be easily explained. The sprinklers malfunctioning, Maleficent had done her job well. Willa pulled on the sawed-off length of pipe, but it couldn't budge it. She called for a stunned Charlene to help. As the water rose steadily higher, together they pulled. Water spilled over the side of the car, quickly filling it. Willa chanted, 1, 2, on 3. Both girls heaved on the pipe, pulling it free. The doors blew open. The girls fell back into the car as a few thousand gallons of water rushed into the next scene, and the car rose at the leading edge of the wave like a surfboard. The plume of water spun and turned and twisted its way out toward the ride's finish, leveling off as it reached the exit. The car lowered and settled into the track which it had started. The waiting guests stood there, drenched head to toe. A lake of water had flooded the pavement outside the attraction. In all the confusion, the two girls hurried from the car and ran for their lives.